Today, we're going to be focused on a beginner tutorial of Integromat. So if you have never logged into an automation tool in your entire existence, if you're not even quite sure what an automation tool is or how Integromat can help you in your automation journey, this video is for you. Today, we're going to be covering some of the basic theory as to what Integromat is and how you can use it. But in addition to theory, we're also going to apply that theory by actually building out a real scenario that is really useful, in my opinion, inside Integromat together. So I'm encouraging you guys during this video, please have Integromat open and side by side, I'll click something, you click something. We're going to build something together inside Integromat so the information will really stick with you. But before we start construction, I do want to hit on a little bit of theory. Namely, what the heck is Integromat to begin with? Integromat is an automation tool. And I know for some of you, you hear automation tool and you're like, yeah, I got it. And for others, that's a completely new concept. For those others, I'm going to focus on you right now. The job of these automation providers is to take information from different pieces of cloud software and connect them. When we have cloud-based tools like QuickBooks or maybe Gmail, when we have these tools, each of these tools collects data that we are using to get jobs done, right? We have emails that we're writing with subject lines and sender addresses. We have invoices we're creating with billing contacts and, invoice totals. We have all this data we're keeping in each of these tools. But our work doesn't tend to happen in just one tool. I'm not working entirely in Gmail and entirely in QuickBooks and entirely in Loom. Almost no one is working entirely in one tool. And as great as it is that ActiveCampaign and ClickUp and Google and QuickBooks and all these other cloud tools are collecting information and keeping it there for you, that's great, awesome. But wouldn't it be more useful if those tools could talk to each other? So that way all of your data isn't in a bunch of little places, but can actually be sent between these tools? Wouldn't it be great if the contacts that you have in Google Contacts become contacts that you have in QuickBooks? Wouldn't it be great if the notes that you have in your Pipedrive CRM can become tasks in ClickUp? Wouldn't it be great if the contract you just signed in DocuSign, all that information you gathered would get sent over into your CRM afterwards? That kind of bridging between different tools is what we are able to do with automation tools like Integromat. So that kind of bridging to send data between different tools automatically. So that's one of the main benefits of having a tool like Integromat in your toolbox, rather than you manually retyping information from one place to another and hopefully not messing it up. Integromat will do that for you automatically. Integromat integrates with so many tools. It can't send absolutely everything, but if you click on any of these tools on the Integromat website, you'll see, if we scroll way down here, what triggers and actions are possible. Meaning what can start an automation, a trigger, and what can happen afterwards, an action. These actions can be pieced together to make multi-step automations like you're seeing in some of the examples, which you can find on Integromat's website. So that it's more than just a one-time transfer of data, it's actually a full automation of a workflow that would otherwise be boring, administrative, repetitive processes. Are we on the same page? Good, that's what I was hoping. Now to start our journey, naturally, we're going to need to have an Integromat account. If you do not have one already, go down to the description of this video and you will find an affiliate link. Not only will that let you sign up for Integromat free of charge with their trial, but you'll get to trial the higher standard plan rather than the normal free plan. So if you have not yet created an account, use that link, support this channel at the same time as getting a great deal for yourself. So what we're going to want to do here is just click sign up, fill out some basic information about ourselves, and sign up for free for Integromat. No credit card required, and once you're in, you can start automating right away. Once you log into Integromat, you're going to see something like this. There's a lot of stuff going on here on the sidebar, and I just want to be honest and say that most of this will not matter to you until you are at least an intermediate Integromat user. So I'm just giving you straight up permission here to ignore all this stuff with the exception of dashboard and connections. Assuming you have a new account right now, it's going to look pretty boring, but we're going to spice that up right now. So head on over to create a new scenario and we're going to start our journey. This is the new scenario page. This is the blank canvas to get you started inside Integromat. This is your last reminder that I strongly recommend you actually click through this tutorial with us. Don't just watch this, because your brain will remember this information a whole lot better if you were actually doing the clicks as well as me, as well as I, at the same time. Let's just do it together. Okay. If the giant animation isn't enough of a hint to start your journey here, you're going to want to click in the giant plus and give yourself a trigger module or a starting point for this scenario. This trigger is what's going to kick off the whole automation. This is basically answering the question, when will this happen? Now, the scenario we're going to build out together today is to solve the problem of Zoom recordings being sent out, okay? So whenever a Zoom recording is finished, we want to have our automation take place to send that link to certain people. So in that scenario, what application is going to trigger our scenario? What's going to kick this all off? Give me the name of a software. Yeah, right, Zoom. So with that, we're going to click on the plus and we're going to type in the search Zoom. As we type Zoom, we see this guy show up and we're going to give it a click. As soon as we do that, we see a whole bunch of more options. This is where we need to be a little bit more specific. And as I scroll through these, I want you to just think logically about what you think would be our choices here. Just like when we search for Zoom, we can actually type in keywords and find out what might handle recordings. So let's just go ahead and type the word recordings. And voila, already we have some options narrowed down. So of all those options that showed up as a possible trigger, a possible kickoff, we're down to these 4. So which of these 4 seems like it would be the right trigger for our scenario we're talking about? Do we want to watch recordings and trigger anytime a recording event happens? Do we want to search recordings on a schedule? Do we want to download recordings on a schedule? Or do we want to delete recordings on a schedule? Considering we want this automation to start whenever a new recording is finished, it's done, it's up there, we want to choose the watch option here. So on here, we're going to click watch recordings. And I should say a lot of the time, the ones that include watch as the first verb, those are going to be the most commonly used triggers in scenarios. So if you are ever tied between options here, oftentimes watch will be the one that'll make the most sense. So we're going to go ahead and choose the watch option here. And now we're prompted to connect our Zoom account. Don't let the terminology webhook here freak you out. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff now. Integromat makes it very easy to connect our Zoom account. All we have to do is click the add button here. Then it's going to prompt us to connect our Zoom account. Because Integromat allows us to connect multiple webhooks, we're going to want to give this a descriptive name. So we're going to call this one completed Zoom recording, because that's kind of the topic of the information we're going to be gathering. The next thing we want to do is click add to add our actual Zoom connection. It'll prompt us to log in with our Zoom account. Once we log in with Zoom, we'll see it spin over here to verify the connection, and voila, our Zoom account is connected as well. The last piece we have to do on this connection is to say what kind of events, what kind of things do we want this connection to look for? Because remember, whether you want to call Integromat a digital highway or maybe a digital translator, it's sending data back and forth. And we only want to have it send the data that we actually need. So in this case, we have the options of choosing things like recording started, recording paused. In this scenario, what data do we need in order to start this whole process off? Let's look through our options. We've got recording started, recording paused, recording resumed, completed, renamed, trashed, deleted, recovered, and so on. Based on these options here, I think it's pretty clear that recording completed is what we're going to want to choose, because this whole process is going to start when a recording of a Zoom call is finished. We're going to select that and click save. Note, we could have selected multiple options there if we wanted to collect a bunch of different data and send it in different directions, but we're going to keep it very simple now, which is why we named that connection just for video call completed. All right, so once we are in here, we've got Zoom added in, we can click OK. We want to go ahead and add the next step in our journey. We've got Integromat watching for all completed Zoom recordings. Now what? What do we want to do with that information? Well, odds are we want to send it somewhere. So we're going to go ahead and click on this little plus icon here. This is going to add another module just like the first into our journey. Because this is not the very first module in it, these would just be a general action module. This would not be the initial trigger module. So the triggering module is the one that kicks everything off, and the rest of these modules are just additional actions. Now we want to select another tool. In this case, let's go ahead with Gmail, which is how we're going to send our email. In Gmail here, we have some options, once again, of what actions we want to have this do. Now, we could have Integromat here send an email blind to a specific person based on certain variables, but because this is a very simple scenario right now, we're going to practice what we preach about keeping things simple first. So before we go straight up automated and have this shooting out emails left and right, we're actually going to have this automation draft an email for us first. That way we have a little bit of manual oversight and we're not going all in on automation, especially if it's our first Integromat build. So we're going to go in here and click Create a Draft. Now, once we connect this module here, you can see we can drag it around, which is kind of cool. But you also see this little asterisk here letting you know that this is not fully set up yet. So I'm going to click into here and we're going to want to add a connection just like we did before in order to connect our Google account to Integromat. So go ahead and give that connection a name and then click Continue. Once you're in here, you're going to be prompted to log into your Google account. Click Continue, click Allow. Once you allow the connection, you will see your connection show up here, and all of these options will become available. Now, as you can already tell, the module settings here are different than the Zoom ones. That is perfectly normal. In fact, almost every tool that you're going to connect with Integromat is going to have different options and questions that it's going to ask you. But how you fill in those options, how you fill in those settings is going to follow some basic rules. Every one of these settings is going to prompt you through how to complete it. In this case, the folder one is asking me to choose a folder. So it's browsing all the folders I have in my email account and letting me choose where I want to have this new email be drafted. In this case, I'm going to choose the drafts folder. This next field is more like a typical field we're going to see across other modules. When I click Add Recipient, I see a text field. And once I click in that text field, I see this kind of menu pop up. And this kind of menu is going to become more and more familiar the more times you do this. This menu is showing you data that the automation already collected. It's basically saying, hey, before you type something in from scratch, are you sure you don't want to use information we already gathered back here? If I were to just type in an email address here, like hello@hello.com, that email address is going to stay the same always. It's static information, it's typed manually. Whereas these guys are more like spreadsheet headers, okay? So when I actually run a scenario through this automation, the word event is going to be replaced by specific information about the event. For example, this timestamp isn't going to show up with the word timestamp, it'll show the actual timestamp of when the recording occurred. So whenever possible, we want to use this kind of dynamic data over here, selecting the blue icons, so that way the data is always changing with each pass through. Now, in this case, if I were to search these available fields, we don't really have an email field in here because there was no email field collected earlier on. All it did was get a Zoom recording. So because of that, I'm actually going to leave this email field blank, and I'm going to allow myself, when I'm finishing up this draft, to add that email address later on. So I'm going to leave this empty. Then the subject line. In this case, I'm going to want my subject line to always start with the word recording. That way, people who receive this email always know it's a video recording. Then I'm going to use one of those dynamic fields that we talked about earlier. In this case, I'm going to put the timestamp of the event in here. Now, later on, we're going to actually run this scenario. You're going to see why we're going to need to do a little bit more work here. But for now, let's just leave it at that, and you'll see what happens when we go to test. After that, I want to actually write the content of the email. So this could be something like, hi, here's the recording. And then I need to give the recording link. Once again, we want to use dynamic information here because it's not like it's the same link every time. That's the whole point of this automation, is the fact that it's different with every recording. So if I look through these kind of collapsing sections of all the different fields that we get, all the different information we've collected, I'm going to scroll down until I eventually find the download URL right here. Now, if I didn't know where to look for that, I could also just type the word download, and here we are. So now I have this download URL field. I'm going to click and drag that over to this part of the message, exit out of this, and click OK. And just as a reminder, this blue section is going to be replaced with the actual link of the download link. Then I'm going to click OK. Now, both of these modules here, our trigger module and our additional module, both of these are showing up as fully set up because there's no little asterisk, there's no warning. Now, the last setting we want to check before we turn this baby on for our first round of testing is this guy here. So this little lightning guy that we're seeing here is letting us know how quickly or how often this automation is going to run. In this case, we're going to run the scenario immediately. So anytime it sees the recording, it's going to go ahead and run. If I wanted to, I could lower this so that it only happens every day or certain days of the week or even specify dates of the year. But at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and keep it as immediately. So that way, every time a Zoom call ends, it goes ahead and makes that draft. So now this is all looking good. I'm going to go ahead and click Save here. And now I can turn the scheduling on. And because our initial trigger here is always watching, this kind of schedule on is saying, okay, we're on watch. We're ready whenever a Zoom recording comes to it. So I think it's time to do a quick Zoom recording. We're going to record this to the cloud, which is what we have triggering this. Quick recording of us dancing. And then I'm going to click stop recording. Now I'm going to end our meeting. Now, as soon as that Zoom recording is processed, we should see it kick off an automation here. So now we just kind of wait until Zoom finishes processing that, profound recording. Now, either the icons might appear for you right here, letting you know that that automation went through, or if you go back to the overview area, you will see the successful runs you've had of this automation right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these to show us the details and see how exactly this automation worked. Right off the bat, we see 2 giant green marks, which is a good sign letting us know that our automation did indeed go through 2 steps of our module. And in this little cloud here, we can see what data Integromat was able to get from the Zoom recording. Here we see that there's one bundle of data, meaning one package of information, in this case, one recording, was pulled from Zoom. If we expand that bundle, we can see what data came in. First of all, we've got the timestamp in this kind of weird formatting for when the actual recording was done, the event type, which is the thing we actually selected when we set up this connection, a download token, which is kind of a techie thing we don't have to worry about quite yet. And in this payload, we also see recording information. So we can see the email, the share URL, the recording ID, and all this other good stuff. All of this data is now available to us to use in our later automations. So this is all good. This is the kind of data we want to collect. Then we can see our Gmail draft. So clicking on this kind of zoom in area, we can see the input for this, meaning the data that went into the email module includes no copy recipient and no to, which is fine because that's what we set up. We didn't put anything in either of these fields. We didn't have any BCC. The content of our email is here, and we did not have any attachments. One issue I do see right off the bat, though, is look at our subject line. What? It's showing us the timestamp, but in a really weird formatting. In fact, the same weird formatting that we see back here. So we're going to need to do some work on that, but we'll do that in a moment. So back into this one, we see the output, the result of this email module, which is a message, which this is just telling us where to find it. But honestly, let's just go into Gmail and look for it there. Oh no, they're actually coming in blank. I'm not seeing a good recording date. So what we need to do is go back to our automation and do a little bit of troubleshooting here. So we know that part one of this automation is working. The data's coming in through Zoom. And now that we've run the automation at least once in our testing, we have more information to make the part two even better. So let's go through here and solve some of the problems that we saw in our first test. The first problem that we saw was with this event timestamp. It was coming in this kind of gibberish formatting. Luckily, Integromat has date formatting built into the interface. So we're actually going to go ahead and use some of their built-in formatting options to make this show up in a date and year that people actually would understand. So to do that, we're going to go beyond this main menu here that we've been spending most of our time in, and we're going to just navigate slightly over to this date option. As we venture into these other tabs, you're going to see some more advanced options about formatting and rearranging and, adding formulas to this data to push things even further. One formula I want to show you here is the format date option, which is what we're going to need here. So with these examples you see here, format date takes in this kind of date here, and with this kind of formatting, spits out this number. Integromat has a whole web page with a bunch of different formatting codes, but for now, we're actually going to go with the standard month, day, year. So we're going to go in here, we're going to put our event timestamp in here. We're going to type in MMDDYY. This is going to tell us how we want our date formatted. So that is one problem we're going to solve right there. The other issue we're seeing is that this download URL is showing up blank. So to solve this one, we're going to save our changes and go back to a demo test. What we're going to look for here is what data we actually got from Zoom. So in this example, I'm going to go to the payload, go to recording, and I'm going to see, was there a download URL coming through? Here we can see that there was indeed a download URL. So why wasn't it showing up when we tried to do it earlier? But when we click over on this one, we do see that the download URL is coming in empty. Let's go back to the diagram here and try to figure out what could be going on. I'm going to click on Gmail, create draft, and where we have that current file download URL, I'm going to look to see if there's any other options that might be relevant. So here, if I go under download files, I realize, whoa, there's actually two different files coming in here, two different download URLs. I can tell by what we have here in blue that payload, recording file with no S, and download URL is the one that we selected. I wonder if we try the second one here, if that's going to be the one that actually has the real data on it. So I'm going to select that new one, delete our old one, and drag this one into our email. Then I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to click Save. If you're still watching this video and enjoying it so far, please do like and subscribe. Thank you. Okay, back to the video. There were no other issues that came up to me in our initial test. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and do another quick Zoom video and see what happens when we try to run it through this time. So let's go ahead and open Zoom, new meeting. Hi. Make sure we're recording to the cloud. We're recording, hello. End that and end the recording. Now, of course, we're gonna have to wait a few minutes here till Zoom processes that recording, but then we should see it come through on this side inside Integromat. Here we can see at the overview page that it did indeed run here. So we're gonna go to the details and see what happened. So in this one, we've got our Zoom recording coming in. Okay, all that's working as expected. The real mystery is going to be over here on this timestamp one. So I'm going to go into the email one. I'm going to see the inputs and here's the key. link. In this input, it does indeed have that URL being sent into Gmail. So that URL did come through this time. So we know we solved that one problem. The other question is around the subject line. And we go to the subject line, we do see a formatted date come in. This is great. This is fantastic. But just to validate, we're going to also go into Gmail and see what we see there. When I go into my drafts in Gmail, we do indeed see a new recording here. This one does have the link to the meeting and it has the date properly formatted. Yay! All right, so that is great. Our automation is now working. We want to go ahead and give this scenario, which is the name for this entire thing, triggering with Zoom and ending with Gmail, we want to give it a descriptive name. So we're going to go with this kind of name. That'll work for now. But now we have the option to push it even further. We could continue to add additional modules in between each one of these steps. Perhaps we wanted to also download the recording. We could put that in here. Maybe we also wanted to create a folder in Google Drive to put that recording in. Maybe we also want to add a step where we create a task in ClickUp, reminding us to send the email. Each of these steps we can go through and add in and format one by one in this very same way to start building out a whole automated workflow for how we handle our recordings after a Zoom call is finished. Of course, for each one of these, as you can see by the red icons, we're going to need to go ahead and fill in the required fields that it needs. We're also going to need to make sure that we don't have any formatting issues like we ran into here. But hey, that's okay. That's the fun part of this. We get to continue to add on additional layers until our whole workflow is fully automated and saving us tons of time every single week. But sometimes making automation better doesn't mean you have to make it longer. I also want to highlight here some of the filters we can do along the way. So you might have noticed this little wrench icon here. If we click on this wrench, we can actually set up additional options for the path between these two modules. We could add a note explaining what exactly this does. We could even add additional filters to say only send when the duration of the recording is greater than 1. So if it's less than a minute, we don't want to hear it. We can even give that a label so we know what the heck this is doing here and add that filter on. This condition is filtering down this path. So if something does not meet this filter, if something is not a minute in duration, it will not go through. It'll be caught here in traffic and not continue on in the scenario. Now, just to hit on some keywords here before we continue, our trigger module is this one here. This is the one that is using a schedule that we set in this option here to start off this automation. Then it goes through this path, and this path can have a filter that we set up here. We can also give this filter a descriptive label that is just a note to ourselves to know what we have going on. Inside every automation, we have these items here. These are pieces of data that are dynamic and change with every single cycle. Each of these items contain data, and even though it says payload recording duration here, we know that when an actual automation runs, this will be replaced with the actual duration of the video. We also know that every additional module we add onto it has their own unique settings that we're going to need to navigate. And sometimes it might take trial and error to figure out which of the variables or which of the items is going to be the right fit. We also know that we have options on how things appear inside our account. Even though they have their timestamp formatted in crazy Unicode formatting, we can go ahead and change that over into our own format by using the format date option. We also know that there are a lot of other options for formatting that really free us up to be able to change the data to fit whatever we need for whatever use case we are trying to solve. Beyond that, we have learned that saving our automations is what's going to allow us to start our automation on a schedule. This is basically turning our automation on. We've also learned that we have a notes side on the right-hand side where we can put notes to self if we're learning something important, or maybe want to link out to a YouTube video that's going to help us with a certain step. Beyond that, some buttons that we haven't quite talked about is the auto align button to make things look nice and pretty if you get things to be a bit chaotic, and that we can add additional modules by clicking the add button here or by clicking the plus at the end of our existing automation. There are so many more areas of Integromat to explore. There's all these other tabs on the sidebar, which again, you'll get to eventually. There's all these good guys here, which again, you'll get to eventually. But as long as you were able to follow along today and get through your first automation with 2 whole modules and a filter there at the end, I am really proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself as well. If you use the affiliate link in the description of this video, you will get a free month of the standard plan of Integromat, no credit card needed. So definitely use that link down there if you want to get a free trial of the fancy plan. Now, I do want to say, if this is exciting you, if you're looking to dig deeper into Integromat, I do have a whole playlist of videos about this right over here where we talk about a bunch of different use cases for Integromat. And of course, if you enjoyed these kinds of videos or talking about business processes in general, you might also want to like and subscribe to this channel because it's free and it's a great way to support this content. Thank you guys so much for joining me here for this beginner Integromat tutorial. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments. And if you want to revisit this video, please do check out the timestamps in the description below to jump to certain sections or key ideas so you can review this later on. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, just your bi-weekly reminder to enjoy the process.